My son drugged me to steal $3 million, he laughed. It's early inheritance. I smiled and said, you should have checked the balance. The rain in Seattle does not fall, it slides. It clings to the floor-to-ceiling glass walls of my living room like a second skin, blurring the lights of the city across the sound into smeared streaks of gray and gold. I sat in my Eames lounge chair, the leather cool against my back, watching the water distort the world outside. To anyone looking in from the patio, I must have looked like a fragile old woman, a 70-year-old grandmother resting her weary bones after hip surgery, staring blankly into the night. But I was not staring blankly, and I was certainly not resting. In my lap, resting on the cashmere blanket that covered my legs, was my tablet. To the untrained eye, it might have looked like I was reading a book, or perhaps playing a word game. In reality, I was monitoring the network traffic of my home router. I spent 30 years as the chief financial officer for a cybersecurity firm. I know how to spot a breach. I know how to track a packet. And right now, I was watching a clumsy, brute force attempt to bypass my firewall. A notification flashed across the screen in red text. Device Julian's iPhone attempted to access admin panel. Failed. Attempt 5 of 5. I sighed. A sound that was lost in the vast, echoing silence of the main room. My son, Julian. He was persistent. I would give him that. But persistence without intelligence is just annoyance. He was trying to guess the router password. He had probably tried my birthday, his birthday, and perhaps the name of the dog we buried 20 years ago. He did not realize that my passwords are alphanumeric strings generated by an algorithm I wrote in 1998. He was upstairs right now, probably pacing the floor of the guest suite, cursing his phone. He and his wife, Tanya, had been living in my house for 2 months. They claimed they were here to help me recover from my hip replacement. They said they wanted to be close to family. They said they were worried about me living alone in this big, glass box. They did not know that I knew about the foreclosure notice on their condo in Bellevue. They did not know that I had seen the repossession orders for their leased Range Rovers. They thought they were the actors in this play, and I was merely the scenery. The sound of footsteps on the floating staircase broke my concentration. They were heavy, careless steps. Julian never walked. He stomped. He moved through the world as if gravity owed him money. I minimized the network diagnostics tool and opened a Sudoku app just as they entered the living room. Mom? Julian's voice was loud, cutting through the quiet hum of the air filtration system. Why is it so dark in here? You are going to ruin your eyes. I like the rain, Julian, I said, not looking up. It is depressing, Tanya added. She breezed past him, carrying a bottle of my vintage Pinot Noir and 2 glasses. She was wearing a silk robe that I am fairly certain she stole from my linen closet. Honestly, Sylvia, I do not know how you stand it. All this gray. You should sell this place. Move to Arizona. Get some sun. It would be better for your bones. My bones are titanium now, Tanya, I said, tapping my hip. They do not care about the weather. Julian threw himself onto the sofa opposite me. He looked tired. His face was puffy, his eyes red-rimmed. He looked like a man who was running out of runway. He ran a hand through his thinning hair and looked at me with an expression that was supposed to be concern but looked more like calculation. We need to talk, Mom, he said. We talk every day, Julian, I replied, placing a digit in the Sudoku grid. Usually about what you want for dinner, or why the internet is lagging. This is serious, he said. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Tanya and I have been looking at the finances, just trying to help you organize things. And we are worried. This house, the upkeep, the taxes, the heating bills for all this glass. It is a drain. It is bleeding you dry. I almost laughed. I own this house outright. My property taxes are auto-paid from a high-yield savings account that generates more interest in a month than Julian makes in a year. But I kept my face impassive. I adjusted my glasses. I managed, Julian. But for how long? He pressed. Mom, look at you. You are 70. You just had surgery. You cannot keep living like a tech mogul from the 90s. You need to downsize. You need to simplify. And frankly, you need to think about the future. About legacy. Legacy. That was the word of the day. I looked at him. I looked at the desperation in his eyes. He was not worried about my future. He was worried about his present. What are you suggesting, Julian? I asked. He exchanged a glance with Tanya. It was a quick, conspiratorial look that they thought I missed. "We think," Julian started, his voice dropping to a serious, confidential tone, "that it would be safer if you added my name to your main accounts, just for emergencies. In case you get confused, or if something happens, I could manage the bills. I could invest the surplus. I know a lot about crypto, Mom. The returns are insane right now. I could triple your savings in a month." "Crypto," I repeated flatly. "It is the future, Sylvia," Tanya chimed in, sipping her wine. "Fiat currency is dying. You have to diversify." "I am diversified," I said. "I have bonds. I have real estate. I have stocks." "Stocks are slow," Julian scoffed. "Boomer tech." "Mom, listen. I saw the mail today." The air in the room shifted. It became colder, sharper. "You opened my mail?" I asked. "It was an accident," he lied smoothly. "I was sorting the pile on the counter. I saw the statement from Schwab. The liquidation confirmation." He paused, waiting for me to react. He wanted me to be flustered. He wanted me to be the confused old woman who leaves sensitive documents lying around. He did not know that I had placed that statement on the kitchen island at 6 o'clock in the morning, exactly where he would find it when he went for his morning espresso. It was bait, and he had swallowed it whole. "And?" I asked. $3 million, Mom," Julian whispered. The number hung in the air between us. "You sold your options. You have $3 million in cash sitting in a checking account. That is irresponsible. It is losing value to inflation every second it sits there." "It is my money, Julian," I said. "I can burn it in the fireplace if I choose." "That is selfish," he snapped. The mask of the concerned son slipped, revealing the angry creditor underneath. "You are sitting on a fortune while we are trying to build a life. Do you know how much debt we are in? Do you know how hard it is out there?" "I imagine it is very hard," I said calmly. "Especially when you lease cars you cannot afford, and vacation in Tulum 4 times a year." "We are influencers," Tanya shouted. "That is our job. We have to maintain an image." "Then perhaps you should find a job that pays in dollars, not likes," I suggested. Julian stood up. He paced the room, his agitation growing. He walked to the window and looked out at the rain. "You do not get it," he muttered. "You never got it. You think because you worked 80 hours a week in the 80s, everyone should suffer. But you are the only one with money, Mom. You are the only one who can fix this. I am your son. I am your only child. That money. It is going to be mine eventually anyway. Why make us wait? Why make us suffer until you die? Just consider it early inheritance." There it was. The entitlement. The naked greed. He didn't want to earn it. He wanted to be given it. "I am not dead yet, Julian," I said. "You might as well be," he yelled, spinning around. "You sit in this house, playing Sudoku, doing nothing. You are useless to the world." "But that money could change everything for us. We could pay off the condo. We could launch Tanya's skincare line. We could be happy." "Happiness is not something you buy, Julian," I said. "It is something you build." "Spare me the philosophy lesson," he spat. "Are you going to give us access or not?" I looked him in the eye. I saw the little boy I used to read to. I saw the teenager I taught to drive. And I saw the man who had become a stranger. "No," I said. "I am not." Julian stared at me. His face went red. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. For a second, I thought he might hit me. I saw the violence behind his eyes, the impotent rage of a man who has been told no for the first time in a long time. But then, he took a breath. He forced his hands to relax. He looked at Tanya. Tanya stood up. She walked over to him and put a hand on his shoulder. She whispered something in his ear. Julian's shoulders dropped. The anger seemed to drain out of him, replaced by something else. Something colder. "Fine," he said. "Fine, Mom. You are right. It is your money. I am sorry. I am stressed. We are stressed." "I understand," I said. I did not believe him. Let us have a nice dinner," Tanya said, her voice bright and fake. "I made that lasagna you like. It is in the oven. And I bought some fresh chamomile tea. For later. To help you sleep. You look exhausted, Sylvia." "Chamomile," I said. "That sounds lovely." "It is the good stuff." Tanya smiled. "Loose leaf. I will brew it for you." They walked into the kitchen together. I watched them go. I saw Julian reach into his pocket. I saw him hand something to Tanya. It was small. White. They thought I couldn't see them. The kitchen is open concept, separated from the living room only by the large quartz island. But the reflection in the floor-to-ceiling glass at night acts like a mirror. I could see everything. I saw Tanya open the tin of tea. I saw her crush the white pill into a fine powder with the back of a spoon. I saw her sprinkle it into my mug before pouring the hot water. Sedatives. Probably Julian's own prescription for anxiety. Benzodiazepines. They weren't going to hurt me. Not physically. They just wanted me asleep. They wanted me unconscious so they could access the one thing they couldn't guess. My biometrics. My banking app required a face scan to execute transfers over $10,000. If I was awake, I would never permit it. But if I was asleep, if I was drugged, they could hold the tablet up to my face. They could lift my eyelids if they had to. I sat there in my lounge chair, and I felt a great, heavy sadness settle over me. It was heavier than the rain. I had hoped, until this very moment, that I was wrong. I had hoped that the bank statement on the counter would spark a conversation, not a crime. I had hoped that my son would come to me and say, "Mom, I am in trouble. Please help me make a plan." If he had done that, I would have helped him. I would have paid off the debts. I would have set him up with a financial advisor. I would have given him a chance. But he didn't want a chance. He wanted a shortcut. He wanted to steal the harvest without planting the seeds. I looked at the tablet in my lap. I looked at the banking app icon. I had a choice. I could call the police right now. I could pour the tea down the sink and kick them out. But if I did that, they would deny it. They would say it was a misunderstanding. They would say I was a paranoid old woman. They would come back. They would try again. Next time, they might not be so gentle as to use sleeping pills. Next time, they might use a pillow. No. I needed this to be final. I needed them to cross the line so far that they could never come back. I swiped open the tablet. I went to the settings. I changed the screen timeout to never. I opened the banking app. I logged in. The balance flashed on the screen. $12.50. I smiled. A small, sad smile. They hadn't checked the transaction history. If Julian had scrolled down just 1 inch on that paper statement he found, he would have seen the pending wire transfer. But Julian never looked at the details. He only looked at the bottom line. I heard the kettle whistle. Tanya was stirring the tea. I prepared myself. I needed to act tired. I needed to act vulnerable. I needed to be the victim they wanted me to be. Tanya walked back into the living room, carrying a steaming mug. "Here you go, Sylvia," she said, placing it on the coaster next to me. "Drink up. It will help with the pain in your hip." "Thank you, Tanya," I said. "You are very kind." "We just want you to rest," Julian said from the kitchen doorway. He was leaning against the frame, watching me like a hawk. I lifted the mug. The steam rose, carrying the faint, sweet scent of chamomile, and the bitter, chemical undertone of the crushed pill. I blew on it. "It is hot," I said. "Sip it slowly," Tanya advised. "But finish it. You need the hydration." I took a sip. I held the liquid in my mouth for a moment before swallowing. It was bitter. "Is it good?" Julian asked. "It is." "Strong," I said. I drank the tea. I drank half of it. It was enough. I am a small woman. Half a dose would be plenty to make me groggy, to make my eyelids heavy. I set the mug down. I let my head loll back against the chair. I let my eyes flutter. "I am feeling very tired," I murmured. "The medicine must be kicking in," Tanya said. "From your surgery, I mean." "Yes," I said. "I think I need to go to bed." "Let me help you," Julian said, rushing forward. He was eager now. He wanted me horizontal. He helped me stand. He took my arm. He led me toward the bedroom on the main floor. I leaned on him heavily, letting my feet drag. "That is it, Mom," he whispered. "Just relax. We have got you." We entered my bedroom. It was a sanctuary of glass and white linen. He helped me sit on the edge of the bed. "Where is my tablet?" I asked, my voice slurring intentionally. I like to listen to my audiobooks. "I will get it," Tanya said. She ran back to the living room and returned with the device. She placed it on the nightstand. She made sure it was facing the bed. "Thank you," I whispered. I lay back. I closed my eyes. "Good night, Mom," Julian said. "Good night, Julian," I said. They left the room. They left the door cracked open just an inch. I lay there in the dark. listening to the rain. I felt the drug beginning to pull at the edges of my consciousness. It was a warm, fuzzy wave. I fought it. I had to stay awake long enough to make sure the trap was set. I reached out and touched the tablet. The screen was still on. The banking app was open. I heard them whispering in the hallway. "How long does it take?" Julian asked. 20 minutes, Tanya replied. Maybe 30. She is old. Her metabolism is slow. "I cannot wait," Julian said. "I have the wallet address ready. As soon as she is out, we transfer it. Then we delete the app. We wipe the tablet. We tell her she must have been hacked. It is foolproof," Tanya giggled. I closed my eyes. I let my breathing even out. I let my body go limp. I waited for the thieves to come in the night. I waited for my son to come and rob me. And as the darkness finally took me, I had one last thought. "You should have checked the timestamp, Julian. You should have checked the timestamp." The darkness that the white pill brought was not the peaceful, velvet black of natural sleep. It was a heavy, suffocating gray, like being buried under a pile of wet wool blankets. Time did not flow. It lurched. I was aware of my body, but I was not in control of it. I was a passenger in a vehicle that had lost its steering, drifting in and out of a fog that tasted of metal and chalk. I do not know how much time passed before the door creaked open. It might have been 5 minutes. It might have been an hour. But I heard it. The hinges on the master bedroom door need oiling. I have been meaning to tell the handyman for weeks, but in that moment, the high-pitched squeal was the only thing anchoring me to reality. I kept my breathing steady. In, out. Slow, rhythmic, heavy. The breathing of the deeply unconscious. I felt a presence by the bed. I smelled them before I heard them. Julian wears a cologne that smells like sandalwood and desperation. A scent that costs $300 a bottle and lingers in a room long after he has left. Tanya smells of vanilla body spray and stale white wine. The combination was nauseating in the close air of the bedroom. "Is she out?" Tanya whispered. Her voice was right next to my ear. I could feel the heat of her breath. "She drank the whole cup," Julian whispered back. "She is out cold. Look at her. She is drooling." I was not drooling. I have too much dignity to drool, even when sedated. But I let him believe it. I let my jaw go slack. I let my head loll to the side on the pillow. "Okay," Julian said. "Hand me the tablet." I heard the soft thud of the device being lifted from the nightstand. "Be careful," Tanya hissed. "Do not wake her up." She took 10 milligrams of Valium, Tanya. A marching band could not wake her up. I felt the mattress dip as Julian sat on the edge of the bed. He was close. I could feel his body heat. "Okay," he muttered to himself. "Open the app. Face ID required." Here it was. The violation. I felt a hand, rough, sweaty, familiar, touch my chin. It was the same hand I used to hold when we crossed the street. The same hand I used to bandage when he scraped it on the playground. Now, it was gripping my jaw, tilting my head back against the pillows. "Hold the light steady," Julian commanded. A brightness flared against my eyelids. Tanya was using her phone flashlight to illuminate my face in the dark room. "Open her eyes," Tanya said. "It needs to see her pupils." "I know how it works," Julian snapped. I felt his thumb press against my left eyelid. He pushed it up. It took every ounce of willpower I possessed not to flinch. My eye rolled back reflexively, the harsh light stinging my retina. I stared unseeing at the ceiling, keeping my gaze unfocused, glassy. I saw the black rectangle of the tablet hovering above my face. I saw the green dot of the camera active. "Come on," Julian grunted. "Scan, scan." "You piece of junk." A soft chime echoed from the tablet. "Access granted." "Got it," Julian breathed. He released my eyelid. It fluttered shut. He let go of my chin. "We are in," he whispered. The relief and greed in his voice were palpable. "Okay. Savings. Checking. Investment portfolio." "Jesus. Look at the portfolio." "Just the cash, Julian," Tanya urged. "Do not get greedy with the stocks. It takes too long to settle. Just the cash." "Right. Savings. Transfer. External account." I heard the rapid tap-tap-tap of his fingers on the glass screen. He was typing in the routing number of his offshore crypto wallet. He had probably memorized it. "Amount?" Tanya asked. "All of it," Julian said. "Leave nothing." He tapped the screen one last time. A heavy, final tap. "Review transfer," he read aloud. "Confirm?" "Do it," Tanya said. "Done." A second chime. A swooshing sound. The sound of money flying through the digital ether, crossing borders, disappearing into the blockchain. It is gone, Julian said. He let out a long, shaky exhale. It is done. We are rich, babe. We are finally rich. Put the tablet back, Tanya said. Make it look like she fell asleep reading. I felt the tablet being placed gently back on the nightstand. I felt the mattress shift as Julian stood up. Let us go, he said. We need to celebrate. They crept out of the room. The door squealed again as they pulled it shut. I lay there in the dark, my heart hammering a slow, drugged rhythm against my ribs. I wanted to sit up. I wanted to check the tablet. But the drugs were pulling me down, dragging me into the undertow. I had to trust the trap. I had to trust the timing. I let the darkness take me. Sunlight in Seattle is rare. But when it comes, it is aggressive. It bounced off the water of the Puget Sound and slammed through the glass walls of my bedroom, searing my eyes before I even opened them. I woke up with a headache that felt like a nail being driven into my temple. My mouth tasted like cotton and old metal. The after effects of the sedative. I groaned, shifting in the bed. My hip, the titanium one, ached with a dull throb. Good morning, Sleeping Beauty. The voice was loud, cheerful, and dripping with malice. I opened my eyes. I blinked against the glare. Sitting at the foot of my bed, in the 2 velvet armchairs they had dragged in from the sitting room, were Julian and Tanya. They were wearing silk robes, my silk robes. They were holding crystal flutes, and on the small table between them sat a bottle of Dom Perignon, the 1996 vintage I had been saving for my granddaughter's wedding. It was empty. Julian was smiling. It was a wide, wolfish smile that showed all his teeth. He looked relaxed, triumphant, a king surveying his conquered lands. Did you sleep well, Mom? He asked, taking a sip from the empty glass. You were out like a light. Must have been good tea. I pushed myself up to a sitting position. I adjusted the pillows behind me. I took a moment to compose my face. I needed to look confused. I needed to look like a victim. What time is it? I rasped. It is 9 o'clock in the morning, Tanya said. She was examining her fingernails. We let you sleep in. We figured you needed the rest. After all, you have a big day ahead of you. A big day? I asked, reaching for my glasses on the nightstand. My hand brushed the tablet. It was right where they had left it. Huge, Julian said. Moving day. I am not moving anywhere. Julian, I said, putting on my glasses. The world snapped into focus. I saw the dark circles under his eyes, the manic energy vibrating off him. Oh, but you are, Julian laughed. He stood up. He walked over to the side of the bed. He picked up the tablet. See, Mom, he said, turning the screen toward me. Tanya and I had a long talk last night. We realized that you are not capable of managing your affairs anymore, leaving sensitive documents around, forgetting passwords. It is dangerous. You are vulnerable. I am perfectly capable, I said. Not anymore, he said. Because you are broke. He thrust the tablet into my face. The banking app was open. Look at the balance, Mom, he sneered. I looked. The screen was bright. The numbers were black against the white background. I emptied it, Julian said, his voice dropping to a whisper. Last night, while you were sleeping. Consider it. Early inheritance. He stood back, waiting for the scream, waiting for the panic, waiting for the heart attack that would solve all his remaining problems. You stole from me? I asked. My voice was calm. I secured my future, Julian shouted, throwing his arms out. I took what was going to be mine anyway. And now that I have the resources, I am going to make the decisions. We found a lovely facility for you, Mom. It is in Spokane. Very quiet. We will hire movers to pack up the house. We are going to sell it. We need the liquidity for our new venture. Spokane, I repeated. It is nice, Tanya added. They have bingo. I looked at them. I looked at the empty champagne bottle. I looked at the silk robes they had stolen. They had planned it all. They were going to ship me off to a warehouse for the elderly and live in my glass mansion until they burned through the money. And then they would sell the glass mansion and burn through that too. They were locusts. Julian, I said, give me the tablet. Why? He scoffed. Do you want to cry over the zeros? I want to see the transaction, I said. If you are going to ruin me, I want to see the receipt. He laughed. He handed me the tablet. Knock yourself out. It is all in the blockchain now. Untraceable. Irreversible. I took the device. My fingers were steady. I looked at the screen. I saw the balance he was so proud of. $12.50. It is empty, Julian gloated. Zeroed out. You have enough left for a sandwich. Julian, I said, looking up at him over the rim of my glasses. Refresh the page. What? Refresh the page, I said. And go to the history tab. He frowned. Why? It is gone, Mom. Accept it. Humor an old woman, I said, before you ship her to Spokane. He sighed, rolling his eyes at Tanya. He grabbed the tablet from my hands. He swiped down on the screen to refresh it. He tapped the history tab. There, he said. See? Transfer to external wallet. November 14th. Pending. Read the timestamp, Julian, I said. What does it matter? Read it. He looked at the screen. He squinted. Timestamp. 11:45 post-meridium. That was last night. Read the amount, I said. Amount. He paused. His brow furrowed. 12.50. He blinked. He looked closer. $12? He whispered. Wait, that is not right. I hit transfer all. You did, I agreed. And you transferred all of the available balance, which, at 11:45 last night, was $12.50. No, he said, shaking his head. No. I saw the statement. $3 million. It was there yesterday morning. Yes, it was, I said. Now, scroll down. Look at the transaction before that one. Julian scrolled. His finger was shaking now. Transaction, he read. Wire transfer. November 13th. 8 o'clock ante-meridium. That was yesterday morning. Keep reading, I said. Amount. His voice died. His face went the color of ash. $3 million, he choked out. And the recipient? I asked. Who did the money go to? Julian? He stared at the screen. His mouth opened and closed like a fish on a dock. The Sylvia Grant Education Trust, he whispered. Tanya stood up so fast her chair tipped over. What? Who is Mia? Mia is his daughter, I said coldly. The one he abandoned 5 years ago. The one he has not paid a dime of child support for. My granddaughter. You gave the money to his brat? Tanya shrieked. I put it in a generation-skipping trust, I said. It is irrevocable. It is locked until she turns 25. It is for her education, her future, and her safety. And because it skips a generation, Julian cannot touch a penny of it. Not now. Not when I die. Never. Julian dropped the tablet on the bed. He looked at me with eyes wide with horror. You knew, he whispered. You knew I saw the statement. I left it there for you, Julian, I said. It was a test. I wanted to see if you would come to me and ask for help, or if you would try to take it. You set me up, he screamed. You trapped me. You trapped yourself, I said. I transferred the money at 8 in the morning. When you drugged my tea last night. When you violated my privacy. When you stole my biometrics. You were robbing an empty vault. This is fraud, Tanya yelled. You tricked us. We have debt, Sylvia. We have people coming for us. Then I suggest you get jobs, I said. Julian fell to his knees. He grabbed the duvet. Mom, please. You have to undo it. Call the bank. Reverse the wire. I can't. I can't be broke. I promised Tanya. It is irrevocable, I said. That means it cannot be revoked. Not even by me. It is gone. Julian. The money belongs to Mia now. I will sue you, he shouted, his face twisting into ugly red rage. I will have you declared incompetent. I will tell them you are crazy. And I will tell them you drugged me, I said. I reached for the nightstand. I picked up the empty teacup from the night before. I had not washed it. I had placed it carefully in a Ziploc bag I kept in the drawer before I went to sleep, just in case. I held up the bag. The white residue of the pill was clearly visible on the rim. Benzodiazepines leave a residue, I said. And they stay in the bloodstream for days. If you call the lawyers, Julian, I will call the police, and I will give them this cup. And I will give them a blood sample. Julian stared at the bag. He looked at the tablet. He looked at the empty champagne bottle. The realization hit him. He wasn't just broke. He was caught. He stood up. He looked at Tanya. We have to go, he said. We have to leave. Now. We can't leave. Tanya cried. We have nowhere to go. The condo is locked. They took the cars. We have to run, Julian yelled. He grabbed her arm. If she calls the cops. Suddenly, a loud, piercing sound filled the room. It was a siren, but it was coming from Julian's pocket. Weep, weep, weep. Then Tanya's phone started. Weep, weep, weep. Then the house security panel on the wall turned red. Alarm. Intrusion detected. Silent alarm triggered. What is that? Tanya screamed, covering her ears. That, I said, taking a sip of the water on my nightstand, is the dead man's switch. The what? Julian shouted over the noise. The bank's fraud algorithm, I explained, raising my voice. You accessed my account from a known device, yes. But you used Face ID while my eyes were unresponsive. Modern biometrics track micro-movements in the iris to ensure the subject is conscious and consenting. When you forced the scan on a sleeping subject, and then attempted a total account liquidation to an offshore crypto wallet known for money laundering, the AI flagged it. I smiled. It flagged it as a duress event, a kidnapping, or a robbery in progress. Turn it off, Julian screamed. Turn it off! I cannot, I said. The bank calls the police automatically. They call the silent alarm. It triggered 10 minutes ago. I looked out the glass wall, down toward the driveway. And judging by the lights, I said, pointing to the blue and red strobe flashing against the rain. They are here. Julian ran to the window. He looked down. 3 police cruisers were blocking the driveway. Officers were running up the front steps with guns drawn. No, he whimpered. No, no, no. You should have checked the balance, Julian, I said softly. And you really should have checked the security settings. The front door crashed open downstairs. Police! A voice boomed from the foyer. Is anyone in the house? Julian looked at me. He looked at the door. He looked like a rat in a trap. Tell them it was a mistake, he begged. Mom! Tell them I'm your son. Tell them I have permission. Permission to drug me? I asked. Permission to rob me? I picked up the tablet. I closed the cover. I have no son, I said. I only have a granddaughter. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. Upstairs. Clear left. Clear right. The bedroom door flew open. 2 officers burst in, weapons raised. They saw an old woman in bed, and 2 people in silk robes standing over her with a tablet and an empty bottle of champagne. Hands! The officer shouted. Show me your hands. Julian raised his hands. He was crying. She's crazy, he sobbed. My mother is crazy. She invited us here. Get on the ground, the officer barked. Tanya screamed as she was forced to her knees. The officer cuffed her hands behind her back. Julian was next, face down on the white carpet, his cheek pressed against the floor. An older officer, a sergeant, walked over to my bed. Ma'am, he asked, are you Sylvia Grant? I am, I said. Are you injured? I am recovering from surgery, I said. But otherwise, I am fine. We received a duress signal from your bank, he said. Potential fraud and hostage situation. My house guests, I said, gesturing to the floor, drugged my tea last night and used my unconscious face to unlock my banking app. They attempted to transfer my life savings to an offshore account. She's lying, Julian screamed into the carpet. I have the cup, I said, handing the Ziploc bag to the sergeant. And the tablet has the transaction log. The sergeant took the bag. He looked at Julian. That is a serious accusation, son, the sergeant said. Elder abuse, wire fraud, grand larceny, and possession of a controlled substance if that powder is what I think it is. It was just Valium, Julian shouted. The room went silent. The sergeant smiled grimly. Thank you for the confession. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you start using it. They hauled them up. Julian was weeping, snot running down his face. Tanya was catatonic, staring at the wall. As they dragged Julian out the door, he looked back at me. You ruined me, he screamed. You ruined your own family. I saved my family, I said calmly. I saved Mia from you. They took them away. The sergeant lingered for a moment. Do you need a paramedic, Mrs. Grant? He asked. To check you out? No thank you, Sergeant, I said. I just need some coffee. And perhaps, could you ask one of your officers to pour this down the sink? I pointed to the empty champagne bottle. It is bad luck to keep empty vessels around, I said. Yes, ma'am, he said. He took the bottle. We will be in touch for your statement. He left. I was alone. The house was quiet again. The rain was still sliding down the glass, washing the world clean. I picked up my tablet. I opened the banking app. Balance: $12.50. I opened the email app. I composed a new message to the lawyer, representing Mia's mother. Subject: trust funded. Message: the transfer is complete. Mia's future is secure. Please tell her. Tell her her grandmother loves her. And tell her to study hard. Math is important. I hit send. I sat back in my pillows. I looked out at the gray, stormy sky. I was down $3 million. I had lost a son. But as I took a deep breath of the cool, filtered air, I realized something. I had never been richer. The silence that followed the sirens was heavy. But it was not empty. It was the dense, pressurized silence of a submarine that has just survived a depth charge. I sat in my bed for a long time, listening to the rain resume its gentle drumming against the glass walls. The blue and red lights had faded, leaving only the gray morning light of Seattle to illuminate the wreckage of my bedroom. I stood up. My hip ached, a sharp reminder of my mortality, but I walked without my cane. I walked to the window and looked down at the driveway. The oil stain from Julian's leased Range Rover was still there, a dark blemish on the wet pavement. But the car itself would be gone by noon. I had already flagged the repossession order in the mail yesterday. I just had not bothered to tell him. I turned back to the room. It smelled of stale champagne, sweat, and that cloying sandalwood cologne. It smelled of betrayal. I stripped the bed. I pulled the sheets, the duvet cover, and the pillowcases off in a single, angry motion. I balled them up and threw them into the hallway. I would not wash them. I would burn them, or perhaps donate them to a shelter, but they would never touch my skin again. I walked to the guest suite where they had lived for 2 months. I pushed the door open. It was a pigsty. Clothes were strewn everywhere, designer labels bought with credit cards that were now maxed out. Empty wine bottles lined the dresser. A half-eaten pizza sat on my antique writing desk. I did not clean it. I picked up the phone and called a service. "This is Sylvia Grant," I said when the dispatcher answered. "I need a biohazard deep clean, total sanitization, and I need a junk removal crew. Everything in the guest wing goes. If it is not nailed down, take it away." "Everything." "Ma'am?" "Everything," I said. "I want the room stripped to the studs if you have to. I want the air scrubbed." I hung up. I went to the kitchen. I made a pot of coffee. My coffee. The dark roast Julian hated because it was too bitter. It tasted like victory. I sat at the kitchen island and opened my laptop. I logged into my router's admin panel. There it was. User: Julian's iPhone. User: Tanya's MacBook. I selected them. I hit block MAC address. I hit delete user. Then I changed the password, not because I had to, but because it felt good. I typed in a 64-character string of random noise. Let him try to brute force that from a jail cell. 3 days later, the phone rang. It was a collect call from the King County Correctional Facility. I accepted the charges. It cost $3, a small price to pay for the final word. "Mom?" Julian's voice was unrecognizable. It was broken, small, and terrified. It echoed with the tinny reverberation of a prison phone line. "Hello, inmate number 0942, I said. "Mom, please, do not do this. It is a nightmare in here. I have not slept. The food is. It is inedible. I hear the bologna is high in protein," I said. "You have to get me a lawyer," he begged. "The public defender says they are charging me with 4 felonies. 4, Mom: elder abuse, attempted grand larceny, computer fraud, drug possession. They found the rest of the Valium in my pocket." "That was careless," I said. "I am looking at 10 years, he sobbed. 10 years. My life is over. You have to help me. You have money. You have millions. Hire a shark. Get the charges dropped. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them you gave me permission." I took a sip of my tea. I looked out at the sound. A ferry was cutting through the water, leaving a white wake behind it. "I cannot do that, Julian," I said. "Why not?" "Because of the money? I will pay you back. I swear. When I get out, I will work. I will do anything." "It is not about the money," I said. "It is about the balance." "What balance?" "The balance of consequences," I said. "You tried to drug me. You tried to rob me. You tried to put me in a home so you could steal the life I built. You made a transaction, Julian. And now the bill is due." "I am your son," he screamed. "Does that mean nothing?" It means everything, I said softly. It means I failed to teach you that you cannot take what you have not earned. So now, the state of Washington will teach you. Tanya is testifying against me, he whispered, his voice dropping. She took a deal. She said it was all my idea. She said I forced her. She is a survivor, I said. I suspect she will be fine. She will find another host. Mom, please, I have nothing. They froze my accounts. I cannot even buy commissary. I looked at the tablet sitting on the counter. The banking app was still open. I transferred some money to your commissary account this morning, I said. You did? Hope flared in his voice. Oh, thank God. How much? 5,000? 10, $12.50, I said. There was a long silence on the line. That is exactly what you left me, I reminded him. Use it wisely. I suggest you buy soap. I hung up the phone. I stared at the device for a moment. Then, I blocked the number for the correctional facility. I stood up. I smoothed my skirt. I had an appointment. The lawyer's office was in downtown Seattle, a high-rise with a view of the Space Needle. I sat in the conference room, my hands folded on the polished wood table. Across from me sat Sarah, my son's ex-wife. She looked tired. She was wearing a nurse's uniform, her badge still clipped to her chest. She looked like a woman who had spent 10 years holding up the sky by herself. Next to her sat Mia, my granddaughter. She was 15 now. She had Julian's eyes, but she had my chin. She was wearing a hoodie and headphones around her neck. She looked skeptical. She looked guarded. Mrs. Grant, Sarah said stiffly. Thank you for asking us to come, but I have to be honest. We do not want anything from Julian. If this is about him, it is not about Julian, I said. Julian is in jail. Mia looked up. She took off her headphones. He is? Yes, I said. For a long time. Cool, Mia said. She went back to looking at her phone, but I saw her shoulders relax. The tension of waiting for him to show up and disappoint her again was gone. I slid a thick leather binder across the table. This is not from Julian, I said. This is from me. Sarah opened the binder. She read the first page. Her eyes widened. She gasped. Sylvia, what is this? It is the Mia Grant Education Trust, I said. It is fully funded. $3 million. Irrevocable. Sarah looked at me. 3 million? It covers university, I said. Medical school, if she wants it. Or art school. Or a startup. It covers a down payment on a house. It covers travel. It covers freedom. I looked at Mia. It is yours, Mia, I said. But there are rules. You get a stipend for grades. You get a stipend for working a part-time job. You do not get the bulk of it until you are 25. Do you know why? Mia looked at me. She put her phone down. Because you do not want me to be like him, she said. Smart girl. I smiled. Exactly. Money is a tool, Mia. It is like a hammer. You can use it to build a house, or you can use it to break your own thumb. I want you to build. Why? Sarah asked, tears welling in her eyes. You haven't seen us in 5 years. Julian told us you hated us. Julian lied, I said. He kept you away because he didn't want to share the inheritance. He wanted to be the only beneficiary. But I was watching. I saw you working double shifts, Sarah. I saw Mia's honor roll certificates online. I reached out and took Sarah's hand. I am sorry I was not there, I said. I was trying to respect boundaries that my son put up. I realize now that those boundaries were fences to keep me out, not to keep you safe. Sarah squeezed my hand. Thank you, she whispered. Can I? Mia hesitated. Can I come visit you? Do you have Wi-Fi? I laughed. Mia, I have enterprise-grade fiber optics and a server rack in the basement. My Wi-Fi is faster than NASA. Mia grinned. Okay. I will come visit. 6 months later, the winter rains had finally stopped, replaced by the pale, hesitant sun of a Seattle spring. I sat on my patio, a cup of tea in my hand. It was Earl Grey. I had thrown out all the chamomile. The house was quiet, but it was not empty. Mia was in the living room. She was sitting at the glass table, her laptop open, coding. She was building a website for a school project. She came over every Tuesday and Thursday after school. She said it was for the Wi-Fi, but I knew it was for the silence. And the cookies. I watched her type. She was focused. She was sharp. She was a Grant, but she was the good version. The version that had skipped the rot. My tablet buzzed on the table next to me. It was a notification from the bank. Interest payment received. $12,000. I swiped it away. I picked up the local newspaper. There was a small blurb in the crime section. Local influencer sentenced to 8 years for fraud scheme. I did not read the article. I knew the story. I looked out at the water. The mountains were out today, jagged white peaks against the blue sky. I was alone. I was 70 years old. I had a titanium hip and a family tree that had been pruned aggressively. But as I watched my granddaughter frown at a line of code, bite her lip, and then type a correction with a triumphant flourish, I felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the sun. I had emptied the ledger. I had balanced the books. And for the first time in a long time, I was in the black. I took a sip of tea. Mia, I called out. Yeah, Grandma? Check your syntax on line 42. You missed a semicolon. She paused. She checked. She looked at me through the glass wall, her eyes wide. How did you know that from out there? I know everything, I said, smiling. Now finish up. I ordered pizza. You're the best, Grandma. I know, I said. I have the bank statements to prove it.